Guys, and welcome back to Detective Butler, Maiden Voyage Murders. So we're going to get right into this, as we normally do, with Chapter 8. Cecilia and I enter the engine room. Her flashlight shines, the only source of light, and it isn't even that powerful. The inside of this ship looks far more intimidating than it seemed earlier, but I'm sure that's the darkness playing tricks on me. Cecilia appears to pay it no mind, courageously leading the way. Maybe it's the occult hobby giving her strength. But then again, she was frightened so easily when we first met. This way! Please be careful. It'd be bad if something happens to you too. You seem rather confident. That's really unlike you. What's that supposed to mean? I try to be confident whenever I can. My observation shouldn't have been a surprise to her, given what's happened in the past 2 days between us. I guess it's in her airhead nature not to realize it, though. Nah, it's fine. I'm just making conversation so this place isn't that scary. I wonder. Gilligan, are you afraid of the dark? Yeah. You never know I may be hiding in the darkness. It can be a little scary for me, too. Cecilia grabs my arm and drags me along with her. I was wondering, how can you be scared so easily if you're into paranormal stuff? Wouldn't you, get used to it or something? No, you're thinking backwards. It's scary because I know it's real. You can act all confident because to you, it doesn't exist. I see. Like when you believe in Santa Claus, you're afraid you'll end up on the naughty list and get cold for Christmas. But once you realize it's not real, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Santa's not real? What am I gonna do with this year? Maybe that was a wrong metaphor to use. The two of us continue walking, eventually reaching a fork in the path. Hey Gilligan! We're almost there! Down this hall. Good. I bet Butler's waiting for us. How much did you know about him anyway? You two get along really well. We just met yesterday, actually, but you bring up an interesting point. It's kind of odd to entrust telling my father's death to a totally random stranger. If I had to comment on that, I got really lucky that a detective was even here in the first place. There should be plenty of time to get to know him once the ship docks. Until then, it's important to find the culprit before they can escape or kill anyone else. Butler said he was from the Lighthouse Chronicles. I haven't been here in California for so many years, but that name rings a bell. Their catchphrase is shining truth's light into the darkness, a rather noble statement. It's a highly respected newspaper that even people like me across the country are aware of. The fact that Butler has been assigned to tour the ship for an article alongside this insane murder mystery probably means I'll be getting some publicity quite soon. Yeah, it's pointless to doubt it. CEO murdered on ship's Maiden Voyage is quite the headline. I had only thought of his death on a more personal level. I can't imagine what it would mean after this cruise is over. Will inevitably cause an uproar among the company's associates. Who knows what they'll be demanding. Of course, the honor of dealing with all those people will soon belong to me. Such is the life of the wealthy, arguing amongst themselves first world problems that are trivial compared to the rest of society. It's one reason I refuse to take on my father's place as CEO. I hate how petty the wealthy can get sometimes. It's as they say. Money corrupts people. I couldn't imagine that kind of life. It must be nice being rich. I'm not sure about that. Money isn't everything. It's better than having nothing like me. Oh, well, now I feel bad. I guess that's true. But life isn't perfect. That's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just good enough. Now that's something I couldn't imagine. Just living good enough sounds like living on hard mode. It isn't easy. But this job pays well enough, and if it works, it works. I'm curious why you decided to work here in the first place. The ghost. I did some research on the internet. Lots of interesting stuff happened down here, like people getting killed. Well, that probably wasn't the best thing to say. No, I get it. Ghost stories are interesting. So that's why you came here. Right. But I haven't found anything on this Cobalt couple story. So when Jack told us about it this morning, I wanted Butler to get some more details on it. I was kind of selfish. You couldn't find anything about it on the internet? Now I'm surprised. Yeah, I couldn't believe it either. Anyway, here's the backup generator. Journal. Cobalt. A pair of lovers were tragically killed from an... Oh, this is the pair of lovers. Late 20s occupation ghosts. They are no more than tourist attraction today. Their ghosts supposedly haunt the engine room and elevator shaft. Many workers were also subjected to the unfortunate deaths. Most people would attribute my father's death to the hauntings, but I won't. Society researched the ship's history via internet. Although this ship was notorious for its many ghost stories, nothing was found in the Cobalt couple. Society's Kyrie eventually turned to during the second power outage. Let me take a look. Society shines the flashlight near a bunch of valves and switches. I wouldn't be able to operate this thing even if I had a start button. You've got to be kidding me. It really has a start button? The main generator looks busted. It was also set at dangerously high level. No wonder. Good thing we have this backup. Yeah. Guess we should press start? Go for it, Gilligan. If playing video games are preparing for anything, this would be it. I take my finger and jam it into the button. Ah, there we go. At last, light fills the room. Yeah, it all looks familiar now that I can clearly see it. And even the sounds, engine noises. I get scared every time. Even when it's something as mundane as a car, I'm like a frightened child the moment I hear the engines turn on. I'm paranoid that it might happen again. 10 years ago when my mother was killed. I've already explained my father grew up poor. His family had absolutely no wealth, and it was probably because of that he decided to create his company. However, there was a time before he owned GG Inc. The company was only 10 years ago, shortly after my mother's death. Contrary to my father, my mother came from a wealthy family. She practically had everything in life handed to her. So in some ways, she reminds me of the person I've become. They had met in university. When my father worked incredibly hard for several years after high school to be accepted, it was practically a free ride for my mother. Having both majored in business, the two saw each other quite often. When my father became the hardworking type, the kind of guy who'd spend more time knee-deep in paperwork than anything else, my mother was the opposite. She'd rather spend her time absorbed in housekeeping activities. During that time, my parents dated quite a lot, and they eloped together after graduating. No, it wasn't as if their lives were easy. My mother was disowned after she eloped, so it was up to two of them to support themselves. Now that I think about it, my father once mentioned that Howard helped them out during this time. He offered them a place to stay, which I'm sure my parents were thankful for. Without his help back then, they would have been hopeless. Eventually, they managed to secure enough money to settle down and raise a child. That child was me. We were what anyone would call a normal family, at least for the first 10 years of my life. After that, however, things started to go downhill. Fortunately, the picture of a happy family was merely the illusion. On the outside, everything seemed just fine, but secretly everything was falling apart. And it all had been falling apart for a long time. I'm not sure if it was because I'd grown older and wiser, but it was becoming more obvious to the point. It was becoming more obvious to me that my parents had reached their breaking point. Each day would be filled with arguments. Every day I returned to an unstable home, and although I tried to forget about it, such a thing just wasn't an option. I knew my mother tried to shield me from the truth, and she probably tried to shield herself from it too. The horrible truth that my father was an abusive husband. Knowing about my father's past, I can see how he became so violent. From popular in high school for beating up the bad guys, he became a person who thought he could do no wrong. His physical strength eventually got to his head. If my mother didn't agree with him, he'd lash out at her. But oddly enough, he never lashed out at me. So my mother's pain must have been unimaginable at the time. One day I decided to ask her for the truth. I was tired of holding on to the illusion of happiness. It's like Butler said, between truth and happiness, you can't have both. She hesitated, and she broke down crying. I'm sure it was too much to tell a 10-year-old child, but what was she supposed to do? Lie and say everything was okay or admit the horrible truth? One day my mother decided to move on. She knew that she could no longer have the truth from me, so instead of lying, she accepted it and did the next best thing. Her plan was to escape her abusive environment, taking me with her to her parents' house. For the longest time, they had disowned her. They told her Govana wasn't trustworthy, and she refused to listen. Despite deep inside, she knew she was wrong. My PC's running low on battery. She swallowed her pride and was ready to move. Okay. But even with that said, this story doesn't have a happy ending. The two of us were in the car on the road to her parents' house. They lived a few hours away, so it was a long drive. Suddenly, while on the road, we heard some unusual noises in the car's engine. My mother instantly panicked, and the car began to spin out of it. It crashed. The car crashed, and although I managed to survive, it was at the cost of my mother's life. The last minute, she protected me. Soon after, the authorities came, as was my father. I was taken back home and continued to live with my father for the next 8 years. As I said, he never hurt me. In fact, after mother's death, I noticed a change in his attitude. His dominant personality would often go silent. For the first time in my life, I'd see my father break down into an emotional state I never thought I would see. I'm sure his guilt from the incident was mentally tearing him apart. Of course, it probably didn't help. Well, but how else was I supposed to feel? After my mother's death, we packed our things and moved to New York. He said it was for his job, although I learned later that he started up his own company using the money he'd gained from my mother's death. That's why I hated it so much. Suddenly, a noise rings out of Cecilia's phone, or Cecilia's pocket. After recovering from her startled jump, she takes out a walkie-talkie. Hello? Ah, hey, Butler. Okay. She handed me the device. Good work, Gilligan. Now, here's what I want you to do. Listen carefully, okay? Right. What is it? I just remember that there was something I wanted to check down there. That one room we found earlier. Do me a favor and take a look around. You think there's something inside? Can't be sure. However, we're at a loss for clues at the moment, and I don't want to go all the way down there to look for myself. Also, on your way back up, I want you to bring Eliza, Howard, and Blythe with you to the captain's room. Let's run around for me, you know? Got it. See you later. Oh, Gilligan. 10 years ago, my mother was killed. Yeah. I believe my father regretted it. Oh, okay. That's what we learned about. Dumbass. That's not what you say with a walkie-talkie. Over and out. The line goes silent. Look, it looks like he hung up. So what did he say? We have to go into the boiler room. There's something he wants me to check. You mean that creepy door, right? I want to see it too. Yeah, Butler had the suspicion about it earlier during the ghost tour, but then he was knocked out before he could do anything. Knocked out? The lights flickered on and off a few times, and then we heard a crashing noise. When the lights came back on, he was lying on the floor bleeding. The lights again? Doesn't that just scream ghost did it? I suppose ghosts are known to mess around with lights and electricity. You aren't going to blame them for the power outage, are you? Of course I am! Well, here we are again. This room is still as creepy as it was earlier. Let's not waste any more time than we have to, please. We step into the wooden platform, our footsteps echoing in the darkness. We have a pretty good memory, so if I'm not mistaken, this door should be the way. This is it, right? It looks old, so it might not be too difficult to break open. I'm not very strong, so breaking down this door might not even work, but I have to try. Then I hear the sound of the door opening, and Cecilia turns to face me. Ah, you got it! Good work, Gilligan. Thanks. Right now I'm a little more scared than usual. I mean, I'm always afraid of the dark, but we're going into the darkest room in the ship. But more importantly, I'm afraid of whatever might be lurking inside. Cecilia is right. Even if I say I'm skeptical, at my core, I'm just as scared as if I'm not. I'm not the kind of person who hopes for the best, but plans for the worst, you see? Regardless of any superstition, it may be possible that the true culprit is hiding down here. We haven't established that the culprit couldn't be a random stranger. In fact, I'd probably like that to be true. If the culprit was among the people I'd gotten to know during these past 2 days, no, I don't even want to think about it. Upon the door opening, I see a small room no bigger than my own. However, inside the room is much worse. The corner of the small room is a set of old, torn-up furniture. It's in horrible condition. Spider webs and dust not only cover the furniture, but line the floor and walls just as much. At a glance, this place looks like an old storage area. The main question on my mind is exactly why these things are stored in here. There's even a queen-size mattress laying on the concrete floor. It's all grimy, definitely unusable for anyone to be sleeping in. Wow, this place is so creepy. Oh, I love it. Cecilia approaches an old wooden desk, shining her flashlight around in circles. She then goes through each of the drawers, hoping to find something. What's this? Gilligan, take a look. She pulls out a photograph from one of the drawers. It shows two people holding each other. Turning it over, there's something around the backside in faded red pen. Boone, Cobalt, shall pay. Whoa, this picture... What is a picture of these two doing here? Found anything else? It's also this. Cecilia picks up a stack of papers, shuffling through them. Let me see. I grab some yellow faded paper, searching for any clues. As Butler said, we don't really have any leads. I should use this opportunity to bring something of value back. Wait, what's this? GG Inc.'s logo is on one of these papers. Remember what I've seen, I flip through the papers as soon as I read them in order. This document is both my will and my confession. If you're reading this, then I am already dead. Thus, I have no more reason to hide the truth from anyone. My name is Jonathan Equinox. Formerly a cruise ship captain, but my glory days are long over, and from beyond the grave I am inclined to reveal my darkest secrets. For if they torture me in my life, they will do worse to me in death. I'll say it bluntly. I killed Boone Cobalt, and I killed Helen as well. But it was not without reason, nor was it with intention. Allow me to explain what happened almost half a century ago. I will admit that I was jealous at the time. It was my primary motivator, although one could easily argue I was lustful as well. For my wife Helen was an adulteress, and I had caught her in the act of a considerable number of times without her knowing. On the night so long ago, I decided to confront her. Being the captain, I had the keys to all of the rooms at my disposal, and so I used them to enter one of the guest rooms. I gathered evidence to suggest that he was sharing me with a wealthy individual named Boone Cobalt. It was his room in which I had confronted the woman. She was ever so surprised to see that I had found her out. Boone was just as surprised, and in an emotional outburst, he proclaimed that his love for her was stronger. I was in no mood for games, however, and promptly aimed my revolver at the man's head. Fortunately, the one to take the 3 bullets I fired was Helen. She pushed him out of the way at the last moment, and so I unintentionally became her killer. The man was in such a state of shock that I was easily able to shoot him down anyway. But at that point, I was no longer in the name of love, lust, pride, or even jealousy, but instead simple regret. I then dumped their bodies into the ocean, hoping that no one would ever find them again. I wanted to forget what had happened and wanted the world to forget it too. But for so long, it haunted my mind that I can't help but tell you the truth right now. The incident was so frightening, I vowed to never operate that ship again. To the public eye, I explicitly shut down everything, and that was how I wanted everyone to see it, nothing more. Now, I wish to pass down this ship. For I am on the verge of death, and I can't trust the purest chance the successor. So I shall name them here and now. The Ackerley Estate. They have been with my side for so long, and I cannot help but feel my involvement in the act of murder to be incredibly disgraceful. I wish to apologize and ask for forgiveness from you, my good friends. For similar purposes, I do not wish for my own family to know my evil deeds. They already hate me as it stands, and I would not want them to inherit my shame and guilt which I have had for so long. That is all I ask. The rest of my funds may be given to my immediate family, but this dark secret shall stay away from them forever, and so the ship shall not be passed to them. Jonathan L. Equinox. Last page are legal details concerning GG Inc. At the very bottom of the last page, mistakenly my father's signature. However, just below his signature, the side note also written in my father's handwriting. It states that after a brief meeting with the deceased relatives, all assets of the deceased will go to the immediate family. In other words, it was a signed agreement that violated the old captain's will. Was this really my father's doing? I suppose at this point I should put this in the past. Did it find something useful? I think so. We'll have to show this to Butler. There's definitely a connection. I just don't know what. That's for Butler to figure out. Right. Boiler room. Achievement. Well, anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more videos like this one, and I'll see you in the next one.